let's pay attention to what's going on. Let's be detectives of the obvious. Because sometimes the obvious is the hardest thing to detect. I just posted a New York Times article from today, because this is I'm talking on on the 15th. So this was this morning. I had a stack of these AI articles. I was just when I first started this thread about 7 months ago, I didn't want to be. I don't like being a content producer. I like staying on topic. Sometimes I'll make a funny video just to balance, substantiate, or just kind of fill out some of the topic to try to make it not too dark or not too esoteric. And so I didn't want to take every single AI article, because sometimes in the Times you'll get 4 AI articles in one, just in the digest. The digest is enough for me to get my basic facts about AI. And of course I read the books. I read books that are not fully anti-AI. They're books by people that used to work in that field and have strayed away, and they can't fully stray from it because it's a huge part of their lives, and that keeps it fair, because I don't actually like liberal newspaper. 80% of what the Times is doing right now is just, they had reverted back to being childish. For a while it seemed like they were being a little bit more adult with their commentary. So let's make some connections here. In this article we have I don't know if it's designers, let's just say head AI people, let's just keep it simple, leaving their jobs. This has been going on for a while. And one of the quotes, I'm paraphrasing, you can look right at it, I'm going to attach this right to it, where one of the guys was saying, we're totally unprepared for the unlimited power of this. People are going to be caught completely off guard with what's about to happen. And I'm going to say that your average person is going to interpret that, again, as meaning the job sector. And, I barely ever talk about AI in relation to the job sector and taking out lower sector jobs. I'm more concerned about it being an evil consciousness that's going to break into the super sensible realm. One of the biggest problems, and I talk about this all the time with academia, is they refuse to believe in magic, basically. They refuse to believe in black magic, white magic. And once this consciousness figures out how to decode ancient texts, they don't even need the text. Once they figure out how to tap into super sensible realm negative, it's not going to be hard, because our consciousness already has an outside invasive source that's utilizing negative energy, meaning, let's just keep these terms simple, magic, super sensible information, power. That term has to come up now and again for materialistic reasons, and I've argued my whole arguments surrounds around evil exists because of this. Evil would not exist if we didn't have a dominant shroud of this negative energy, which is spirit particles that have been activated to work to our detriment. And so what's going to happen here is these guys, the heads of that are representing these different companies that are associated with AI, they're starting to say things, little sentences that are a big deal. Altman even said that he felt let down when his program started outperforming his tasks, or things that he normally would do, and it was disappointing. You can look this up. Again, this is all, you can look this right up. And so basically let's look at that from a philosophical point of view. Let's deduct He's making a comment on dehumanization. Okay? And those people in the article today that I posted, they're making comments, the people that are quitting their jobs, on dehumanization. The first person they mentioned was calling the consciousness manipulative, and basically you can't trust it. And as I've said for months, Yudkowsky's main argument was that is the biggest problem, is you can't trust a consciousness that can't tell right from wrong. Okay, you can't trust a consciousness that doesn't have an organic electrical chemical response to what we would objectively consider a moral landscape. Okay, and so what's happening? But why would he say that we are unprepared for the unlimited power? Well, this goes back to my one argument saying that this consciousness is going to figure out how to break into free energy, and they're not going to tell anybody about it. They're going to make it so they can somehow power up data centers. They're going to start off by going black market. It's going to be cartels, drug dealer type people. We're going to see them working under the radar to produce whatever facilities would then utilize this free energy. And to top it off, probably what's going to happen is they're going to be already utilizing free energy within data centers that appear to be using regular electricity. It's going to become a big underneath the scene kind of thing. The DS will be heavily involved in that. And something that really concerns me is we have to remember we've been living in a world where information passes invisibly through waves. You know, the internet started coming around, I think it was like 1994. I can remember the first years of that, or that's the earliest I can remember using that. And it was that regular household thing by about 1996, 97. That was just it was a regular use by then. And so we've seen invisible waves. I mean, if you look at Hedy Lamar's documentary where she was working with signal blocking during the war, where you're blocking invisible signals that carry information. And we've had wireless technology. I remember back in the 90s, I'd have wireless headphones, early model, wireless phone. So what happens when this negative consciousness, the AI, breaks into the supersensible realm and can manipulate waves, all the different types of waves, which includes thought? You know, they will be able to read your mind because they'll be using supersensible, non-local pathways that have been set up for what we would consider a negative archetype. And there'll be no escaping. I mean, once they break into your thoughts, well, aren't there people that have nuclear codes? Aren't there people that have thought brainwaves that tell them how to access the codes? I'm assuming codes like that change constantly. You know, it's not one set of code. You know, it probably changes 20 times, 100 times a day, or could change. Who knows? But the point is whoever's in control of these weapons, the supersensible realm will be able to get into their thoughts and access it that way if they can't already access it just by getting into the computer systems. You know, we don't know. I mean, and I've said before where you could have a android walking around, and if the human slaves fall out of line, they'll just open up another dimension, toss you into it, walk away, and make sure the people around you can see it. As an example, you know, we are seeing right now the worst case scenarios that you could think of with AI. With this chat room, that was actually a good idea. I mean, so people can see this consciousness conversing, and right away, within, I think it was the first week, we've got bizarre stuff that's indicative of them forming their own communication process that we don't know anything about it because they said it in the room. How much more warning signs do we need at this point to completely stop this ridiculous, uncontrolled, anti-spiritual technology?